Framer now supports code blocks and inline code, which means you can create a stunning documentation style website using the CMS, and it's really easy to do. So I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create one inside of Framer. There is a remix link down below. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to be creating a docs website that walks a user through how to use a specific product. In this case, it would be documentation for programming. And we can detail out using code blocks, inline code, and all of these cool features that are native within the Framer CMS. So I have these different pages here. We have navigation between them over here on the left. I have this nice fixed navigation. And we also have search. If we wanted to search between these different pages, we have that ability as well. So the first thing that you want to do is either start from the file that I already have created for this and remix it, and that's going to give you these different styles that we're going to be using throughout this project. So if you don't want to do that, you can just create new styles here. We're going to need some text styles and some code styles. So you're going to want some headings. You're going to want to define what your inline code looks like, and you're going to want to define what your code blocks look like. Framer makes this really, really easy. So don't stress out too much about it. You're basically just selecting from the list that they have here, what kind of code snippets do I want? And once you actually have the content in there, it'll be easier to visualize it. So you could even just skip this step for now. So let's go into our CMS. I'm going to delete this and we're going to create a new collection. So we'll just call it docs. And we're going to go up here and click edit fields. So what they give us out of the box, we're going to use all of that. Your title is just the title of the page. The slug is the URL. And then the content is where we're actually going to define the information within our docs. So the only thing we want to add in here is a option selector. And this is going to be for us to define the type of doc that we have. So for this example, we really only have two. We have guides and reference. So if you have more in your docs, you just click add here and you can define it, as you need to. Components, for example. So I'll remove that. And this pretty much sets up our CMS. So the CMS is going to power everything that we need for this. We just need to define everything. So if you have other types of content, let's say your docs has an image on each page or something else, you just define it in here. You can see the different options that you have. Maybe you have a published date that you want to specify. You can do that here. Okay, so now next up, let's go back into the CMS and we're going to click new item. So this is where we can actually start adding in our docs pages. So the first one is getting started, and you'll see the slug gets added in here for me. The type for this one is a guide, and we can start adding in the content. So from our reference example, we have some text here. So the first thing is our title, and I'll just add that in here. And then we have this block of text below. So since this is coming from a Framer site, it is already defined for me. So if you're pulling your content in from Notion or GitHub, it'll probably already be stylized for you. But if not, if you had some plain text in here, you just bump it up to whatever you need. For this case, it's an H2. And then we have already either previously defined that, or you can do that in your styles as needed. For the next part, we have this use animate little code. So we'll add that in here. Use animate. And for these are actually inline code. So just like we defined in our style guide previously, you can click inline code. And since this one's a heading, we'll bump it up to our H2. So that was super easy. Now we've already defined some of our code. And like I said, if you're bringing this in from GitHub or something like that, you could probably just copy the entire snippet or the entire block of text and paste it in just like that. And you'll see that since this is coming from Framer, it's already been defined for me. If it's not, I'll just select what I need, and then I can turn that into inline code as needed. For the code snippets, these will not be automatically stylized for us. So you'll see if I drop this in here, it just looks like plain text. This is very easy to fix. We're just going to select it and add in our code block. So now, very simply, it has been stylized for us, and now we have this beautiful code block inside of our docs. So now you can go ahead and just start adding in the rest of the content that you need. So now that we have all of the content that we need in here for our getting started page, we have everything defined as far as our title, slug, type, and any other fields that you may have added. You can just click save, and now we have our first CMS item, which is also a page. So if we come back in here, we go to pages. Under CMS, we can go to docs, and your index page is actually going to be the page that allows you to navigate through these different pages. So that would be like a browse page for your blog, for example. For this, we just want to have the details page. So I'll click details page, and now you'll see just like that, everything has been added in here nicely for me. Everything is stylized based on what I've defined previously for my code snippets, inline, my code block, my titles, and all that. And you'll also see that over here. So anything that you have previously defined, you can customize it and it will be nicely represented over here. So if I wanted to, I could come over here and select maybe a different code snippet type or anything like that. So you guys are free to mess with this as you like. Gone ahead and added in the rest of our docs pages. Everything is now loaded into the CMS. And now we can start customizing our navigation. Let's just go ahead over here to the side, and we're just going to create a frame real quick. So this is going to act as our kind of navigation. I'll add a color fill to it real quick. And now we can start filling in some of the information that we need. So up here, I'm just going to write logo for now as a placeholder. And now we can customize it later on. I'll put that up here in the corner. I'm going to also press Option Command Return, and that will add a stack around this. And then I can just add a little bit of padding. We'll give it 16 pixels. And I'm also going to add a stack to this frame by just pressing Shift A, and I will just leave that as is for now. So now that I have my row and my column for my logo, I can insert something called a content list or a collection list, and that's going to basically act as our navigation in this case. So let's take this navigation that we have for our header and our logo, and I'm just going to set that to fill and set it to distribute from the start. Okay, so now for our collection list, we're going to do two different ones. So I can duplicate this, and we're going to filter them based on whether they are guide or reference. So I'm just going to add some text in here real quick. Add guide, and the next one will say reference. So these are going to kind of act as our high-level navigation to the different types that we've defined previously inside of our CMS. So in here, I'm going to add a filter, and I'm going to filter by type. So if type equals guide, then it will show up here in this list. So I'm just going to rename this list real quick to be guide, and I'm going to rename this one to be reference. So the reason we're doing it this way is because later on, when we start adding in new pages, they will all automatically show up here in our navigation, and we won't need to manually define them later on. So I'll do the same thing down here for my reference. I'm going to add a filter by type. If the type equals reference, then it will appear here. So now I have my two references and my 4 guides. So I'm going to set this to fill the container real quick. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And we'll do a little bit of styling here just to make this look okay. We'll add 12 pixels there. And now, since this is a collection list, we'll only need to define the first one, and then the rest of them will fall in line with that. So I'm just going to set this to be my body, and I can do the same thing down here. So you'll see there, I pressed Option Command C, Option Command V, and that allows me to paste the styling, and I can do the same thing for the container. Okay, so now I have my left-hand navigation. I'm just going to select everything that I've just added here and press Option Command Return to put it inside of a stack. And I will set it to fill, and I will set the content to fit. And some of this content within here should also be filling the container, and it looks like it is. So now this will allow me to just add a little bit of padding in here. Just going to bump that up to 16 pixels. All right, so now I'm just going to turn this into a component, pressing Option Command C, or Option Command K rather, and we're going to call this navigation. So now what we can do is we're going to start customizing this to match our different displays. You'll notice here as I resize this, there is probably a minimum width on one of these links somewhere. So I'm just going to click into here, and yep, there it is. So if you have this problem as well, just go ahead and remove that. We don't need that for now. Just right click and remove this. So now that should be working nicely. Our content is scaling. We want to have this at a fixed width though. So I'm just going to put 250, and I'm going to rename this and call it desktop. So this is going to be our desktop, and we're going to also later in our design set this to be filling the height of our display. So we don't need to worry about the height on this one. I'm going to add another variant, and we're going to call it mobile, and we'll actually rename it to be mobile collapsed. And for this one, we don't need this bottom section, and I'm going to have another one that we'll call mobile expanded, and then this is going to be the one after people click on the hamburger menu, which we're about to create. It will show them this second version. So let's go ahead and draw out a frame. We can do 32 pixels, should be plenty. And I'm just going to draw out some other frames real quick. So I just need 2 frames. I'll call one of them top and one of them bottom, and this is going to be our hamburger menu. And since Framer uses Framer motion and animation, we can very simply just drop them in, and we'll have 2. And then as the frames change, Framer will just automatically animate it for us. You can customize this a little bit further if you'd like, if you want it to be a different height maybe, or different thickness. So now I'm going to turn this into a component as well, and we'll call it hamburger menu. And now we just need to create that open state. We'll rename this one to be closed, and our next variant will be open. So now we can just rotate these real quick to be at 45-degree angles. Pop that one up, pop that one up. And if we center these, it should give us a nice little X. Okay. So now that we have our hamburger menu, I'm just going to drop it into our navigation here. I'm going to just set my text to be filling the container since I have nothing else in here for now. So on desktop, I don't actually need it. So I'm going to turn off the visibility. And then on mobile, I do want it. So it's here, and it's also here. And for this version, we're just going to set it to the open one. Okay. So that's looking nice. Some of these probably you might want to customize a little bit. So like this thickness, can probably slim it down a little bit, can probably make it a little bit slimmer, but I'll allow you guys to customize this as you'd like. That looks pretty good for my purposes though. Okay. So now that we have our navigation, we need to actually create little animations between them. So as someone clicks this icon, we want to bring them here. As someone clicks this icon, we want to bring them here. And I'll just click play here real quick and make sure that's working. So you'll see Framer's already added some nice little animations here for me. You'll see that my hamburger menu is animating. My menu is popping open nicely. So that looks pretty good. Now we can go back to our frame, into our actual page, and I'm just going to drop this navigation in here. So if I set this back to be fit contents, it'll go back to the size that I previously defined. And now I can just set the distribution here to be left to right. And I want to align my content to the top here. You'll see I have 100 pixels up here, which I don't need anymore. So I'll just bring that down to 0. And for my left-hand navigation, I want to actually set this to be sticky so that it stays to the left as my content over here scrolls on the right. So since I removed that padding from my main container, I still need some padding in here. I'm just going to bump this up to like 56 maybe. And I want to align my title to the left. So if you set something to be sticky, just make sure that the container it's inside of has overflow set to visible. So I'll do that real quick. And now you'll see that my content is scrolling nicely in the center while I have my navigation over here. Since we used a collection list for our actual navigation items, we don't need to define them any further because they're already connected to the pages in which they represent. The next thing that we want to do is actually start defining our different breakpoints. So we've created this navigation and we have a mobile version, but we haven't actually made any breakpoints for our different pages yet. So you can do this by just clicking this plus for the breakpoints. And now everything looks nicely on desktop and tablet at least. For mobile, we just want to do a few different customizations. I'm going to change it to be my mobile collapsed variant, and I'm going to set the direction of my page to be organized left to right, from left to right to top to bottom rather, and I'm going to set this to be fill. I can also remove that gap that I have. I don't need that 80 pixels spacing anymore because my content's not hanging out over here on the left. And you'll see now that as I scroll, my content scrolls nicely behind it. I can open up this menu and the menu is popping open nicely. The only thing that might be causing a little bit of weird behavior there is the alignment here. So I'm going to distribute here from the start, and I'm going to distribute here from the start as well. So if we try this again, you'll see that now that my content is being aligned from the start, not from the center, the animation is actually dropping down. All right, we're just going to do a few more quick customizations to this navigation, and then it will be perfect. So for the height, I want to set it to be filling my viewport, and I want to make sure that I'm aligning my content to the start, not the center. So my distribution here of the actual navigation, that will bring it up here nicely to the left. I'm also just going to customize some of the styling on it. So I want to give it this layer color, and in here, I'm going to add a quick divider just to divide up my content nicely. So I'm going to add a border. We'll use our divider styling, and I'm just going to add only to the bottom in this case. And on my entire container, I'm going to add that divider to the right just so that we can kind of nicely split up our content here. So here, just going to change it so it's only on the right. And that's looking pretty good. In the future, we're going to add in our search and all that good stuff. But for now, at least we have that. And if you have a logo, feel free to drop that in here as well. I have this little logo I got from Logo Ipsum. So if you have something like that, go ahead, drop it in here. Let me just copy and paste this into here real quick. And that's looking pretty good. I can drop this down to be about 24, and I'm going to put it inside of a container and set it to fill. We'll just add one more quick customization. I can select this post, and you'll see around my post I have a container that actually is where it's linking from. So I'm going to remove that and click on my text and add the link there. That way I can customize it further. So it's the same link. We're just going to the slug. And for my navs, I'll just select this one. And if you click edit, you can add your different customizations here. So now if we go ahead and view, You'll see it's now very easy to tell which one I'm on because I have a nice hover state that tells me. And then once it's selected, I know exactly which page I'm on. Okay, so now that we have our navigation created for our different breakpoints and we've created the different breakpoints for our content, let's go ahead and create the ability to search between different pages. I'm just gonna draw out a frame really quick and I'm gonna type search into it. So I'm just gonna remove the fill on it. And I wanna get a nice icon. So we'll type in, you can just type in icons and see which pack works for you. For me, I'm gonna be using Phosphor. And I'll see if they have search, or it's probably called magnifying glass if I had to guess. Okay, so now this is gonna act as my search bar, and we're gonna kind of create like a fake search bar, which I'll show you in a second, because Framer gives us some styling for a search bar already, but we wanna create our own for this use case. So I'm gonna set the width can stay fixed. I'm gonna set the height to be fit, and that looks pretty nice. The only other thing that I wanna add is my little divider down here at the bottom. So I'm gonna add that divider, and I'm gonna set it to only be at the bottom so I can put 0 for the top, right, and left. And I'm just gonna put this into my page here real quick. So you can come over here, just drop it into my desktop. And now I can select these 2 layers and press Option Command Return to put them inside of a stack. You'll notice that things look a little wonky right now, but that's okay. I'm going to set that to be fitting my contents, and I'm going to set this container to fill. I also want to set the order to be top to bottom. And now I can just simply bring my content below, and my search is going to be right above. So we had some styling on our pages already, and we're going to kind of change it up a little bit. So the gap, we can get rid of that. And I want to set my search to be fill. And now everything should be lining up somewhat nicely. You'll see that these are aligned pretty nicely as well. So if you'd like, you can take this search and turn it into a component real quick. And now we're just gonna go to the insert menu and look for search. So when you have the search, you'll notice you just get this icon here. We're just gonna get rid of that for a second. So turning the opacity all the way down. And now we're just gonna do, like I said, we're gonna kind of fake the search so that when someone clicks in here, they still get search, but they have our styling instead of the default one. So now you can set the position here to be absolute and just add 0 to all sides, and that should work nicely. Let's go ahead and click play real quick, and you'll see as we click on this, our search actually begins. I'm gonna add one more quick customization in here, which is just a nice little UX thing. If we go to the cursor, you can change your cursor to be a highlight. I'm gonna set this to be sticky as well up here at the top so that everything will scroll behind it. I just need to make sure that my container has overflow set to visible. Otherwise, this will not work. Okay, so there we go. My search is sticking nicely up there. The only thing that we want to change here is probably adding a little bit of a fill, just so that our content isn't showing behind it. Okay, I'm pretty pleased with how that's looking. Now we just need to make our customizations on our different breakpoints. You'll see that on tablet, everything's looking nice. On mobile, however, we start to encounter some issues. So here, what we're gonna do is I'm just going to make it invisible. And then inside of here, we can just drag in that search. We're just gonna drop this right into our main component, and we'll set it to not be visible until we need it. So here on mobile, I can bring it back real quick, set it to visible, and I'll just put it over here. So what this allows me to do is kind of have my search always with me, whether I'm on desktop or on mobile, but it's not clogging up a lot of the real estate that I have right there on mobile. Let's bring this back in here as well. Okay, so that's looking great. Now, if we go ahead and actually preview this, it works nicely. I have my search that pops over. I have my navigation here. If you wanted to customize this further, you can do that in here, but otherwise that's looking nice. All right, so now let's go ahead and create our home page. We've created our different docs pages, and now we want that welcoming screen when someone comes to our page for the first time. So on our docs page, we're just gonna copy over these three elements, our nav, our search, and our content. And I'm just gonna paste it inside of here. Since my page already has layout on, I can easily just use the arrow keys to move this back over to the left. And on my content, I'm just gonna unlink it from my CMS. You can come down here, find your content, and just unlink it for now. I'm gonna add my body styling there. This one has H1, so that's okay. And now, if we look in our reference, we have introduction and then this block of text below. So I'll just add that in real quick. Introduction, and then I can paste my content right there below. I want to change the gap between here to be about 16 pixels for now. And next up, we have our different navigation items. So first off, I'm just gonna drag in some icons, and let's just find the content that we have. So we have just beginning, and then below we have our subheading. So I'll just add in an H2 here, and then I'll paste in my content below. And for that, we can use our body style. And if it copied a link like it did for me, you can just remove it up here. So now I can select all of this and press Option Command Return to put it inside of a stack. I'm going to change the fill to be my layer color, and I want to change the direction to be vertical. I'm going to align to the left and from the start, and we can just add maybe 16 pixels in here, and I'll put 12 pixels between. So then we can just set everything to fit our content for now. And we have two navigation items here. So I'll create the next one. So now I can take both of these, press Option Command Return to put them inside of a stack. I'll remove the fill on it, and I'm just going to set both of these to fill the container real quick. I'm going to also set the content within to fill the container. That way, when we shrink it down to a smaller display, our text doesn't run off. Okay, I'm gonna give this 16 pixels between, and now I think we're ready to drop it in here. And I just wanna set this to fill the container and fit my contents. Okay, so now that's in there pretty nicely. I think I probably wanna put this below my content down here, and I can give it that same 600 pixels of max width. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I want to also navigate these to different pages within my website. So for just beginning, this is going to link to my getting started page, and this one is going to link to my motion page. Okay. That's looking nice. I now have a nice little introduction page for people that are coming to my website for the first time, and then they can jump into the docs that they're looking for. All right, guys, if you've made it to this point, then that means you have created your documentation style website inside of Framer using the CMS. I hope you found this video helpful in some way. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.